We're coming on the air with some breaking news from the Supreme Court. The decision in a 4-4 decision now weighing in on the first ever religious public charter school comes after Oklahoma's state Supreme Court ruled that the proposed school was not constitutional, which has huge implications for the separation of church and state across this country. The split decision upholds the lower court's ruling, which was against the proposed school. It is a bit complex, so we brought in the very best, our senior legal correspondent, Laura Jarrett, here to explain what this means and what this does not mean, and a 4-4 decision.
Yeah, we don't see this very often, Craig. So effectively, the highest court in the country deadlocked on this question of whether there should be a religiously taxpayer-funded religious charter school. It was a case out of Oklahoma, but it would have had major implications for schools all across the country if, in fact, the high court had allowed this to go through, because they have said they are equally divided because one justice was recused, Justice Barrett was recused. That means there was a 4-4 split.
Okay.
When that happens, then whatever happened below, because the Supreme Court's always reviewing something that happened in lower courts, that means that the lower court's decision is upheld. And the Supreme Court in Oklahoma had said, no, you can't have a taxpayer-funded religious charter school like this. It violates the Constitution. The challengers here had made a number of different arguments to say that this would obviously sort of violate the whole separation of church and state. The people who had supported this had said, no, this is all about giving parents more choice. You don't have to send your kids to this religious charter school. But obviously the court found it difficult, and they are now deadlocked. And so this issue could obviously come up again in different contexts, but at least as it relates to this one, the Oklahoma Supreme Court's ruling saying this school cannot go forward will be upheld.
And if my math serves me right, if it's a 4-4 split, that would indicate one of the more conservative justices had to have sided with one of the more liberal justices.
That's right. And we don't know which one, because it's an unsigned, which when it says per curiam like that, when you just get a one-pager, again, this doesn't come up that often, you don't get to see the actual breakdown. So we don't know who sided with Justice Sotomayor, Justice Jackson, Justice Kagan. They're the traditional liberal votes, but we don't know who sided with those three other liberal members of the court.
Do we know why Justice Barrett had to recuse herself in this case?
They don't have to say why. Okay. We know that she actually has a very close relationship with Notre Dame. She has not said anything to explain more about, what her position would have been about this case. Justices do recuse sometimes. It doesn't come out that often, but obviously in this case, it had a big effect on the ultimate result.
Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. It would seem on its face that this was a case essentially about the First Amendment.
It was, but again, both sides sort of had different positions on that. The people who wanted to see it go through said this isn't about a First Amendment issue. This is about just giving parents more choice. But clearly, they did not get a majority of the votes, at least this time around.
All right. So again, the nation's highest court in the land has essentially sided with the lower court in this case, which essentially means in Oklahoma, business as usual.
Yes.
That concludes this NBC News special report.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC, or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.